When soup season and Crocktober collide, you get crock pot soups. And there's not much more to say. I just hope you love these recipes.
For this first one, we're gonna make a healthy loaded baked potato soup.
All right, I'm excited. We're gonna make a super easy and budget-friendly soup here in the crock pot. We got potatoes, a head of cauliflower. We're just gonna peel and dice our potatoes. You can kind of go however you want with this. I have about 2 pounds of potatoes, but if you have less, that's gonna be fine too. And I'm just gonna use a whole head of cauliflower because why not? I'm just gonna cut our cauliflower into florets, as they're called. You wanna get all the green stuff off and cut it into little chunks. I'm also gonna dice up 1 onion. We can put that all in our crock pot and then pour in about 4 cups of chicken broth. I've got bone broth. You can use chicken bouillon and water.
You also wanna add about a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper.
And we're gonna cook that on low for 7 to 8 hours. So this is a perfect one to make ahead before you go to work or something like that.
And after about 7 hours, everything was cooked perfectly through. It is cauliflower, so there's a bit of a cauliflower scent to it, but it's worth it and totally delicious. So to those cooked vegetables, I guess, you want to add in a 1.5 cups of half and half with a 1/4 cup of flour. And just mix that together, and it kind of makes like this thick pasty substance. And then just pour that into the crock pot, and that's actually going to thicken the soup up quite a bit. It works really well. Like you've in the past used like a slurry with cornstarch, but the flour and the half and half in this case works just fine. And then once that's all mixed together, you either want to take it out and put it into a blender. You could use like a handheld potato masher if you wanted to, but you would end up with kind of like a lumpier soup, which is fine too. I kind of wanted just like a fully creamy soup, so I went in with an immersion blender and just blended the entire thing up until I had this like creamy potato cauliflower soup. And I just love this because it feels so hearty. But you're getting a lot of vegetables in there. I mean, you're getting an entire head of cauliflower. And this time of year, cauliflower is on sale. It's kind of like that season for cauliflower. So there are some times of year when it's very expensive. I wouldn't want to make it then. But right now is the perfect time to find a sale head of cauliflower and give yourself some nutrients and make a delicious soup. We served ours with some shredded cheddar cheese on top and some crumbled bacon. You can use like the pre-cooked bacon bits. You can use just like the shaker bacon bits. You can do some scallions on this, whatever you like to top your potato with. Like think of it like a baked potato, whatever you want to put on there. And it's absolutely delicious. And even the kids loved it. It was shocking because I'm like, oh, this is a great way to get in veggies for them. And they said they'd have it any day of the week.
5 out of 5.
Yeah.
5 out of 5.
Next up is a slow cooker chili. I'm always up for trying new chili recipes. I feel like I've tried a bunch on my channel and no 2 chilies really taste alike. So you want to start by browning about 1 pound of ground beef. Now I absolutely love this meat masher. It just makes it so easy to cook ground beef or ground sausage. I always link pretty much everything you see in the video down below in the description box under affiliate links if you want to buy anything. Now to my cooked ground beef, I'm adding a finely chopped yellow onion. I missed grabbing this on camera, but I also added 3 cloves of finely minced garlic, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 2.5 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of paprika, and 2 teaspoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. Once everything is well mixed and cooked, you want to add this to your slow cooker along with 2 cans of diced tomatoes. The recipe calls for diced tomatoes with green chilies. I didn't have that, so no green chilies for me, but it still tasted delicious either way. You kind of go with what you have, right? And then I needed 3 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce, so I had a 24-ounce can, added that right in. The recipe calls for dark kidney beans and light kidney beans, but I happen to have light red kidney beans as well as black beans. And I feel like with chili, you can kind of improvise with whatever beans that you have on hand. Go ahead and do it, and it'll turn out just fine. Just want to mix it up well, cover it, and cook it on low for 5 to 6 hours. This chili turned out phenomenal. You can serve it with shredded cheese, jalapenos, sour cream, cilantro, whatever you have really. And it's also a great make-ahead meal if you're trying to do something on a weekend to get ready for the week. Chili is an awesome, healthy meal for lunches. The next meal I'm making is potato chowder. You can see those are my kids' bowls because they ate that night and I actually had it for lunch the next day. You want to start off, like many recipes, with an onion. For this recipe, you just need 1/3 of a cup, so not that much. And then you're also going to need 8 cups of potatoes. If you have children old enough to use a peeler, I recommend you get them on this ASAP. So for my 8 cups of diced potatoes, I needed about 5 russet potatoes, and you just want to slice those up into small cubes. Add your onion, your potatoes, then add 3 cans of chicken broth or the equivalent in chicken bouillon, which you can see that I am doing. I often use chicken bouillon because it's easy to keep on hand and it's a lot less expensive to kind of keep in your pantry. And then you want to add 1 can of condensed cream of chicken soup. You're not going to add anything to this, so this is an undiluted can. Then you want to cook this on low for 8 to 10 hours. Once your soup is cooked, you're going to want to add 8 ounces of cream cheese. Now, I didn't read the directions and I went and put the entire block of cream cheese in, and then I had to stir it around a bunch and break it up, and it was kind of an issue, but it turned out great. Like, the soup is still delicious, so all the components are there. It's just going to be a lot easier if you cut your cream cheese up into little squares. It will go through the soup a lot easier, it'll mix up easier, and you won't have the same issues that I did. You can see that after a while, I did get a very creamy potato soup, and then I just served this with some extra cheese on top and crumbled bacon. The kids loved it. We loved it. It's such a nice, fun thing to have in the fall. Now, I was looking at my analytics and I see that 80% watching this video are not subscribed. So I recommend that you subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. I know you keep clicking. It's time to subscribe. Next up, we're going to make a slow-cooked split pea soup, and it may not be the most beautiful thing in the world, but I'll tell you that it is hearty and healthy and absolutely delicious. It is also extremely inexpensive. This time of year, you're going to get potatoes and carrots on sale for next to nothing. I'm getting 5 pounds of potatoes these days for $1.99, carrots for 99 cents a pound or less. And these things are going to be in all of your fall soups. And I think that's kind of why fall is kind of the soup weather. We have all of these kind of root vegetables that come up, and they can save you a lot of money, and they're also very good for you. I'm just going to start by getting my vegetables ready. I need 2 medium carrots. I'm peeling them and chopping them. I'm not exactly sure why I peeled them because I don't usually do that in a soup, but for some reason I did in this one. You also want about 1 pound of potatoes peeled and cubed. That's about 3 cups, and 1 large onion chopped. And you'll see that I do make a little bit more than I need, and that's because I'm going to make another soup that is also going to include some of these ingredients. So I'm getting started on that too. You just want to start by adding your chopped potato, carrot, and onion right to your slow cooker. This is a true chop, dump, and go meal. If you can get them, you want to use 2 meaty ham bones or 2 pounds of smoked ham hocks. I did not have access to those, so I just grabbed a ham steak, and I did want to put the bone part right into the container, and then I used about half of my steak just by cubing up the ham, and this is relatively inexpensive. You can find these on sale sometimes for just a couple of dollars. Then you just want to add in 1 16-ounce package of dried green split peas and 6 cups of chicken broth. You could also use chicken bouillon. You could also use vegetable broth. You can use water and salt. Pretty much just use what you have on hand. Use whatever's the cheapest. Whatever you have will work. To season this, you want to use 1 tablespoon of dried celery flakes, but I didn't have that, so I just use like a little celery salt, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of dried thyme, a half a teaspoon of dried basil, lemon pepper seasoning if you have it. I didn't have that, so I didn't add it either. And an eighth a teaspoon of dried marjoram. I have to say that like marjoram. It's hard to say for me. And 1 bay leaf. Give this a stir and cook on low for 7 to 9 hours. And mine was done in about 7 hours. You just want to cook it until your peas are completely tender. This soup is so hearty, delicious, healthy, such a fall treat. It does come out pretty thick, so you can add some more broth or water afterwards, however you want to do it, however you like your pea soup. I actually love a nice thick pea soup with a big hunk of bread, but your choice on how you want to do that. This one also freezes really nicely, so it's a great thing to make ahead in smaller portions and then reheat for lunch. So if you are loving these budget-friendly recipes, you will also love my meal plan. So unlike other meal plans, I make a meal plan every month that includes 12 pantry-friendly recipes. So that is recipes to use things that you already have on hand. 12 seasonal recipes, and that's so that you can shop your sales and match up the recipes to things that are going to be on sale at that time of year. You're going to get some delicious vegetarian meals because I always recommend trying one vegetarian meal a week, and that just helps you save on cost. And you're also going to get 8 breakfasts and 4 desserts because we got to fulfill that sweet tooth. The goal of this meal plan is to get you the recipes that you need so that you can save money while cooking for your family, eating well for less, without having to scroll Pinterest for hours, wade through ads. Everything that you need is right there. For a limited time, when you sign up for the yearly subscription to my meal plan for just $60, and that's 50% off the regular monthly price, you're also going to get access to my 4-week self-paced Smart Spend Boot Camp, which is my proprietary framework for saving money on groceries. This also includes the spreadsheet system that I use every week to bring peace and savings to my kitchen. With bonuses, this is over $1,000 worth of value. I offered this package as a flash sale last week, and the response was so overwhelming that I decided to extend the offer through the month of October for you. So go ahead and click the link in the description box below in order to sign up for your yearly subscription to my monthly meal plan for just $60 and get the 4-week Smart Spend Boot Camp for free, included, over $1,000 worth of value in the month of October. The next recipe I'm going to share is for a cheeseburger soup, or I would call it a cheeseburger chowder. It calls for 1 cup of shredded carrots, and as you know how I do, I just happen to have some small carrots, so I shredded them myself. Then I cut up about a half a cup of diced celery, and you need 1 small white or yellow onion chopped. I put all that in the crock pot, and the recipe calls for 4 small russet potatoes peeled and diced, and I didn't have that. But I did have that Hungry Jack shredded potatoes, and those were from Dollar Tree, and I was like, I think this will work. So add that reconstituted potato or regular potatoes to your crock pot with 1 teaspoon of dried basil, 1 teaspoon of dried parsley. Then you're going to want 3 cups of chicken broth. You can see that I used my chicken bouillon. Now you want to cook this on low for 6 to 8 hours or high for 4 to 5 hours. About 45 minutes before serving, cook and crumble your ground beef in a large skillet. You want to drain off any grease. You want to add the cooked ground beef to your cooked potatoes and vegetables in your crock pot. And now we're going to make a roux or it's almost like a bechamel sauce, I would say. I could be completely wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure it's like a bechamel. And you want to take 3 tablespoons of butter and melt it down in your pan. To that, add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour and mix everything together. You can see that it's kind of bubbling here. At that point, you want to slowly add in 2 cups of milk and mix this really well. Now, you can whisk this together. I think in my pan, I didn't really want to whisk it because I'm using a Teflon nonstick pan, and you don't want to whisk with a metal whisk, which is what I have. But it actually worked out just fine using my wooden spoon. You can just see that I'm mixing vigorously. You want to make sure that this doesn't burn to the bottom of the pan. Then you want to add a half a teaspoon of salt and pepper, and you can pour that right into your crock pot. You can see that this is thickened up quite a bit. And to that, you want to add 2 cups of shredded cheese, or you can use a package of Velveeta. I almost never use Velveeta, so I used shredded cheese and mix that around. You can see that this sauce made with milk and with flour really thickened things up. That's kind of what you would use to make a macaroni and cheese, I guess a homemade mac and cheese. And so it thickened the soup up amazingly, and the flavor in the soup is out of this world. It is so comforting, it's so delicious, and I want to make it again. I highly, highly recommend it. And I don't know, I think it's like a chowder because it's potatoes. But you can totally use those shredded potatoes. I bet you could use the frozen ones too. That would probably be fine. I really liked the way it came out using the hash browns, but I think that if you use fresh potatoes, it might give it a totally different style, but it would still be delicious because really it's all about the flavor, and the flavor is there on this. For this next recipe, we're making a French onion soup with apple cheddar grilled cheese. Ooh, these are so good. I looking at them how did I get to eat all that? I want to eat it again. To get started, you want to start by slicing up either 4 medium to small white or yellow onions or 3 large white onions. I was laughing at myself because I'm so used to dicing onion that the first onion I actually started to dice, and I'm no wait, I need to slice these. That's how this works. In a large pan over medium to low heat, you want to heat up 3 tablespoons of butter and then add in your sliced onions and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I actually forgot to add the brown sugar until the end, but it worked out great either way. So I don't even think you 100% need the brown sugar, but it sure is delicious. You want to cook these down for about 20 minutes and they will caramelize. A lot of times I cook them for longer because you really want this deep caramelization on your onions so that they are like a golden brown, but not burnt at all. You can see they start to cook up as things change as time goes on. It's worth the patience in this case to make a really, really good caramelized onion. Once everything is caramelized, to your crock pot, add 64 ounces or 8 cups of either water or beef broth to your slow cooker. If you're using water, you're also going to need to use beef bouillon. So I'm using 8 beef bouillon cubes in my case. To that, you want to add 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I find that you can get it at the Dollar Tree. It's quite good, and it does tend to add a lot to those fall recipes. You're also going to add 1/3 cup of dry sherry, or you could use some white wine, or apple cider will do as well. And 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, and about 1 bay leaf. Pour in your caramelized onions, cover, and cook on low for 6 to 8 hours. By this time, your house will smell absolutely amazing, and you'll have had a nice set it and forget it meal ready to go for the evening, which is awesome. I do have these fun little soup crocks, which I like to use that are oven safe, but you can use any oven safe bowl. Or if you don't have an oven safe bowl, you can kind of make it work in the microwave too. So I'll try and give you some tips on how to do that and how to make this still really good when you start to add some crispy bread and some cheese. This is considered a budget classic because these are things that I usually have on hand, so I don't have to go out of my way to make a dinner in order to make a French onion soup like this and make some grilled cheese. I just have some bread that I found on clearance, but if you either make bread or whatever bread that you have or like, you can use with this. It's not going to be like picky over what style or type of bread that you have. It's going to be good no matter what. I'm going to make use of this bread for 2 things. We're going to use it to make croutons for the French onion soup, and I'm also going to use it to make grilled cheese. I'm just slicing the heels of the bread into more of like crouton shapes, just like cutting it in half. They are larger croutons, but it's totally fine however you want to do it for the soup. And then if your bread's already dry, then you don't have to worry about crisping it up, but I am going to actually place mine on a baking sheet and put it under the broiler for a few minutes just so that it's nice and crispy on top. Now while that's broiling, I'm just going to get my apple sliced up. You might have seen off to the side, I had a pear. I thought I was going to do like a pear and cheddar, which is totally delicious too for the fall. But my pear was just not good, unfortunately. It was actually overripe, which is no fun. But the cheddar and apple is a great flavor as well. I'm just slicing the apple up very thinly. If you don't like the skin, go ahead and cut that off. But I kind of love the skin on something like this because it adds like a pop of color and it makes it even more fun. See, my croutons are nice and crispy, and I'm just going to slice up some cheddar cheese. This is what I had, just like a block of cheese, but if you have like sliced, that's totally fine. Shredded will work. Whatever you have on hand, kind of make it work. Grilled cheese is amazing and forgiving like that, right? You can make it whatever you want to make it. If you have some slices of bacon or some prosciutto or something, go ahead and add that too, because that is delicious. And then to put over the top of my soup, I do have some Gruyere cheese. You can use Swiss cheese for this. You could also use cheddar. You don't even have to add cheese. You can just serve it with the grilled cheese on the side for dipping. That is really good. Make it your own, whatever you have on hand. Don't go too crazy or go out and buy anything specific if you don't need to or don't have to. Over a medium-low heat, I'm going to get started on my grilled cheeses, and I'm just buttering the back of each slice of bread, and then I'm going to place the cheese and the apples on there, and you just want to make sure that cheese gets melty, and then you can put the top onto your grilled cheese and just cook it up until it's nice and crispy and done, however you like it. I know some people like to put mayonnaise on their grilled cheese. Go for it if that's what you're into. I really just like the butter myself. Another option is to toast this in like a toaster oven or put it in the oven at 350 degrees for 5 to 10 minutes. You kind of just want to watch it. And that will cook up nicely too, especially if you don't have butter or you're just trying to save on calories. To the top of the soups, I'm just adding the crusty bread, and we're gonna top it with the cheese slices and then broil it for about 2 to 3 minutes until the cheese is melted. Now, if you do not have oven-safe bowls, but you do have microwave-safe bowls, since your bread is already crispy, you can just place that in the bowl, and then you can actually put that in the microwave for 30 seconds to a minute just to melt that cheese down. Luckily, the soup will already be hot, and maybe your croutons will be too, so it should melt pretty quickly, and it shouldn't, cause any issues with the integrity of the bread in there. You can also just serve it deconstructed. My oldest son hates melted cheese, so I just served his as soup with crusty bread and cheese on the side. And here is the delicious soup once it has been broiled and the cheese melts on top. It is such a fall treat. We were able to eat this outside this particular night because it was nice and cool for once, and there were no bugs, and it was just so wonderful. What do you think?
Good. I'm not eating mine yet, I'm just dipping mine.
Next up, we have an amazing true dump and go chicken taco soup. I was so shocked at how delicious this was, considering how easy it was. And it was one of those things that was just like a full hit all around. Benjamin to Dan, everybody in the family absolutely loved it. You just want to start with 2 chicken breasts. You want pretty large ones. Mine were actually partially frozen, so I just popped them in there and had the idea that I would just cook it for a little bit longer if I needed to. Then I added 1 cup of salsa, whatever your favorite salsa is will do. 1 can of chili beans, 1 can of corn completely undrained, so you want all the juices in there too. That adds to the flavor. And 1.5 cups of water with 2 tablespoons of taco seasoning. And then you want to cook that for 3 to 4 hours on low. I did mine for full 4 hours because my chicken was frozen, but that worked out great. So if you ever forget chicken in the freezer, this is a good opportunity to use that. When your 3 or 4 hours is up, you can remove the top and then add a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And then you want to shred your chicken. I actually just shredded mine right inside of the slow cooker, but I do think it's easier to take it out and shred it on the side. I always laugh at myself. Like I always say, I'm like a glutton for punishment, because I'm always like, oh, it'll be fine. Like it'll be super easy. But then I lose the pieces of chicken inside of the crock pot, and I'm like, if only I had just taken this out, I could have seen everything very easily. So maybe next time I'll remember to. But like I said, this was really, really fantastic. For the simple amount of ingredients and how easy it was to just kind of dump and go, I was so impressed. And then I just served it. You can serve it with some sour cream. You can use some cilantro, some salsa if you want to. Whatever that you like to have kind of on your tacos, you can actually have right on top of this soup. And then I also used some of these delicious tortilla strips that I get from Dollar Tree. Those are amazing just to add some color and some crunch for cheap. This next one is lasagna soup. This is a really old video, but this soup still holds true and it's still delicious. So I did want to show it to you. We can just kind of laugh about the quality. Start off by browning 1 pound of ground beef. I'm using this awesome masher tool that is a fan favorite, so I will link that below for you. Then I'm draining off the grease. I'm using this really cool draining tool, which I will also link if you don't have one of those. In the next step, return the beef to the pan and cook it over medium heat with 1 diced onion and 4 grated cloves of garlic. I used a microplane to do this, and it works awesome. You'll want to let it cook for about 5 to 8 minutes until the onion is cooked through. Now the recipe calls for crushed tomatoes, but I only had whole canned, so I used 28 ounces of the San Marzanos as well as 14 ounces of my own canned tomatoes. And since I needed to mash the tomatoes up, I figure why not use my fun little masher thing again? And it worked just fine. Now, I'm really not much for following recipes 100%. I just go with what I have. The recipe called for beef stock, which I did not have. So I'm adding 6 teaspoons of chicken bouillon, and then I'll be adding 6 cups of water to this dish. Honestly, I couldn't tell the difference. It tasted delicious and was not a problem at all. Then I'm adding 1 teaspoon of dried basil and 1 teaspoon of dried oregano and parsley. Once everything is mixed together, I cooked it on low for 7 hours. After 7 hours, I opened up the crock pot and broke in about 10 pieces of uncooked lasagna. At that point, I let it cook for 30 more minutes. You can see the uncooked lasagna right here. I just broke the full pieces into pieces, and then once it cooked for 30 minutes, it was perfectly cooked through, and it was delicious pasta. You can see how it changes here. This soup tasted just like lasagna. I served it with some whole milk ricotta, kind of dolloped on top, and it was incredible. Definitely would recommend with some garlic bread, and it's such a nice fall meal for your family. All right, guys, let's make a dump and go tortellini soup. I got this tortellini, a few weeks back on like a random order or something, and here it is. I got to use it. So what are we going to use in this dish? It calls for 6 cups of vegetable broth, but I am going to use cheddar. No, I'm going to use bouillon, chicken bouillon with my water. I'm just going to mix that in and use that instead. And then 28-ounce can of diced fire roasted tomatoes. These are from my garden, so we're using them because we're saving money. If you have them, if you got them, use them, right? And then I have some mixed vegetables that are frozen. I would probably use about a cup of these. And then I also have this can of mixed vegetables. It's like this little tiny can. I don't even know where I got it from, but it's going to expire soon. So we're going to toss that in. I'm going to drain it out first. Lots of spices. Just to make it dump and go, you can break all these things out for, fresh vegetables, or you can use fresh basil, parsley, thyme, oregano. In this recipe, I'm just going to use all dried because we just want to toss it in. We want to make it easy for ourselves. This is salt, this is pepper, and that's it. Mix it all together, and we should have a delicious soup. First, I'm just mixing up my chicken bouillon, and the recipe for this is just 1 teaspoon of bouillon for each cup of water. So 6 teaspoons and 6 cups of water. Next, I'm going to add my cans of tomatoes. These are whole tomatoes from my garden. The original recipe calls for diced tomatoes. So you could either dice them on a cutting board or squeeze them with your hands. I find that doing it this way with the mallet is actually a much cleaner method. They do tend to get everywhere when you are using a knife to dice them or squeezing them with your hands. Then I'm just adding my vegetables, and I do end up adding about 2 cups of the frozen vegetables versus 1, as I said earlier. Just seemed like the right amount. Sometimes you got to go with your gut. Next, I'm adding 1 teaspoon each of basil, oregano, thyme, parsley, and salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. The next step is adding your pasta. I'm using tortellini, but you could also use mini raviolis. I've seen those at Aldi for as low as $1.50. Really, any filled pasta will do. I cooked the soup on high for 4 hours, or you could do low for 8. It really is a great budget soup. Don't forget to claim your discount by clicking the link below in my description box and purchasing the yearly meal plan and getting my 4-week Smart Spend Bootcamp for free. This is going to set you up for success with pantry-friendly and budget-friendly recipes every month for your family so that you can eat well for less.